Here are the top stories of the news. Controversy in Adamawa State, escalation of results continue following supplementary elections across the country. No fewer than 29 people killed in fresh attack by bandits in Zango Kataf local government area of Kaduna State. On the foreign scene, more than 50 civilians reported dead following power struggle between Sudan's army and notorious paramilitary force. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Evelyn Ohiola, and now the news in detail. Collation of results are underway in several states of the Federation following yesterday's supplementary elections. All eyes are on Adamawa and Kebbi states, where the March 18th governorship elections were declared inconclusive. Meanwhile, resident electoral commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) in Adamawa, Junusa Ari, has stoked controversy in the state's governorship election. This morning, the INEC rec announced Aisha Binani Dahiru, candidate of the All Progressives Congress (APC), as the winner of the election. His announcement elicited protests from the members of the People's Democratic Party (PDP). Before the collation of exercise was suspended last night, results from 10 LGAs had been announced, and Binani was trailing Amadou Fintiri, the incumbent governor and PDP candidate. The returning officer for the Adamawa governorship election, Mele Lamido, was not present when Ari announced Binani as the winner of the election. Lamido is empowered by law to declare the winner of the election. In the meantime, the Independent National Electoral Commission has reacted to a purported declaration of winner in the Adamawa governorship election by the resident electoral commissioner, even when the process has clearly not been concluded. A statement by National Commissioner Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye, said the action of the REC is an usurpation of the power of the returning officer, stating that it is null, void, and of no effect. INEC has now suspended the collation of results of the supplementary election. The commission invited the REC, returning officer, and all involved to the commission's headquarters in Abuja immediately. Several winners have emerged less than 24 hours since voting commenced in yesterday's supplementary elections. In Sokoto North supplementary election, Senator Aliyu Wamako has emerged victorious with a total of 141,468 votes. The All Progressives Congress candidate defeated his closest rival, Daniya Mani Muhammad of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), who scored 118,444 votes. The results were announced by the returning officer, Professor Ibrahim Magawata, after the poll held in 185 polling units that were previously cancelled. Earlier, the winners in Plateau Central and Yobe South were declared based on the February 25th National Assembly elections. The APC Diket Blanc won the Plateau Central senatorial seat according to the declaration of the collation officer, Dr. Tim Chang La. Similarly, APC's Ibrahim Bomai was declared the winner in the Yobe South senatorial district.
The candidate one by one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I, Professor Ibrahim Magawata, hereby certify that I am the returning officer for the 2023 Sokoto North senatorial district election held on the 15th of April 2023. The election was contested and the candidate received the following votes. Muhammad Farouku of ADC scored 409 votes. Madatakarda Ali Wamako of ADC scored 141,468 votes. Abubakar Modi Aliyu of Abda scored 561 votes. Sidi Ahmad Muazu of APC scored 193 votes. Nayaba Shoaibu Mohammed of NNPP scored 472 votes. Abubakar Manu Gundi of NRM scored 300 107 votes. Taiya Manir Muhammad of PDP scored 118,445 votes. Abdullahi Ibrahim Ghazali of PRP scored 173 votes. Aminu Abdullahi of SDP scored 86 votes. Now, from the results mentioned above, you can deduce that Maga Takarda Ali Wamako of APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected. Thank you.
Meanwhile, out of the 31 constituencies and 15 states earmarked for the House of Representatives polls, 2 had concluded collation by yesterday evening. In Kano, the majority leader of the House of Representatives, Alassane Ado Doguwa, won the Tundunwada Doguwa constituency seat. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) returning officer, Professor Sani Ibrahim, announced the results, saying all Progressives Congress APC candidates got 41,573 votes. His closest opponent, New Nigeria People's Party NNPP standard bearer, Yushao Salisu, polled 34,831 votes, while the People's Democratic Party PDP got 211. In a similar vein, the PDP candidate in the Gumi Bukyum local federal constituency of Zamfara State, Sulaima Gumi, was declared winner of the supplementary poll. Mr. Gumi, who is a 7th member of the House of Representatives, scored 35,664 votes to defeat his closest challenger, APC candidate Ahmed Shehu, who garnered 35,058 votes.
The election, all of them male by gender. Number 1, Abdurrahman Mustafa Hamza of ADC scored 161 votes. Abdurrahman Mustafa Hamza scored ADC scored 161 votes. Alhassan Ado Garba scored 41573 votes of APC. Yusha Salis Abdullahi of NNPP scored 34831 votes, while Jamilu Yabu of PDP scored 211 votes. Jamilu Yabu of PDP scored 211 votes. Awalu Bashir Salihu of PRP scored 112 votes. Awalu Bashir Salihu of PRP scored 11 votes. So, having seen that the election was contested peacefully and that Alhassan Ado Garba of APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared winner and is returned elected.
Staying with the elections, the Independent National Electoral Commission has announced the cancellation of the supplementary election from Ikono-Ini Federal Constituency in Akwa Ibom State following widespread violence. The resident electoral commissioner in the state, Dr. Cyril Omorogbe, disclosed this to journalists in his office in Uyo, describing the rerun in the area as abysmal. He said the election was cancelled in all the 17 polling units where the rerun took place as a result of snatching of electoral materials, including the bimodal voters accreditation system. He expressed regrets that the violence led to the shooting of one of the core members in the leg, adding that the core member is recuperating in the hospital. Moving on, Senator Athan Achonu has emerged as the Labour Party governorship candidate for Imo State. His victory followed the LP governorship primaries held in Owerri yesterday. While announcing the result of the exercise, the returning officer and Abia State Governor-elect Alex Oti said Senator Achonu polled 134 votes to beat his closest rival, Major General Jack Ogunewe, who scored 121. So far, all 3 major parties for the November 11th poll have elected their governorship candidates. Senator Hope Uzodinma is the candidate of the APC, while Senator Samuel Ayawu will contest under the PDP. Meanwhile, a former Minister of State for Petroleum, Timper Silva, has won the All Progressives Congress APC governorship ticket for Bayelsa State. He was declared the winner of the APC election held across 105 wards via the direct primary option in the oil-rich state. While declaring the results at the state's APC secretariat in Yenagoa, the chairman of the Electoral Committee, Major General Ahmed Jubrin, said the former minister scored 52,061 votes to defeat 5 other contestants. His closest rival, Joshua Masiva, had 2,078 votes. In his acceptance speech, Mr. Silva promised to address the endemic flooding challenge affecting the state if elected as governor in the November 11th poll. He also thanks the party for giving him the flag. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.
Iconic African presents the narrative of a man destined to exert an imperishable global influence in Western education. His was a story of a freeborn, captured and sold into slavery. He was born in Oshogun, a native Yoruba village near Iseyin in Okeogun axis of southwest Nigeria. Samuel Ajayi Crowther was the foundation student of Fora Bay College, Sierra Leone, the foremost university where the pioneer set of native Africans were educated. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's greatest contribution to humanity was his translation of the Holy Bible into the Yoruba language. The man who authored the Yoruba dictionary was also credited for the translation of English classic hymns into Yoruba and the Ekwere languages. Samuel Ajayi Crowther's private residence in Badagry, incidentally, the first story building in Nigeria, is an Akaba museum dedicated to the memory of Africa's first bishop. Western Spring Television identifies Samuel Ajayi Crowther as a watershed character in history. The British Empire was the largest and the most powerful in the world. At its zenith, the empire embraced a quarter of the Earth's land surface and imposed her imperial majesty's rule on more than 458 million peoples across nations and continents. The empire took off with overseas possessions and trading posts established by England, spread over 3 million kilometers between 16th and early 18th century. Like previous empires, the British Empire began to crumble on its weight of overstretched territories and growing unrest in our various colonies. Today, the British Empire no longer exists. What is in place is the Commonwealth of Nations, a loose association of sovereign states which recognize the King of England as the titular head. Western Spring Television identifies the British Empire as a watershed empire in history. Badamasi Adegoke Adelabu was a prominent figure in Ibadan politics and Western region before Nigeria's independence. He was a key founder of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, a political party that held aloft the torch of liberty for the two West African countries. He carved a niche for himself as a wordsmith and a creative speaker. The nickname Kwenkele Mens was a natively corrupted version of Peculiar Mess. his bombastic English language style, often used to score proceedings at the parliament. The author of Africa in Ebullition, a handbook of freedom for Nigerian nationalists, was Nigeria's Federal Minister of Natural Resources and Social Services between 1955 and 1956. He died in an auto crash on the 25th March 1958 at the age of 42. Western Spring Television identifies Adegoke Adelabu as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back. In a sad development in Kaduna State, no fewer than 29 people have been killed in a fresh attack by bandits on Runju village in Zango Kataf local government area of Kaduna State. The attack, which occurred at about 10 p.m. last night, comes barely 3 days after bandits killed 8 people at the Attack Nje community, also in Zango Kataf local government area, Kaduna State. Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Arua, who confirmed the latest incident in a statement, said that several houses in the community were burnt down while some residents were injured by the attackers. He also disclosed that troops of the Nigerian military had a fierce encounter with the bandits and are still in the general area to maintain law and order. Meanwhile, Governor Nasir El-Rufai has condemned the killings, describing them as unacceptable and unjustifiable. The governor condoled the families that lost their loved ones and prayed for the repose of the soul of the victims' souls as well as the speedy recovery of the injured. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project has urged President Muhammadu Buhari, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, and other high-ranking officials in his administration to publish their assets as a look to vacate their respective offices. This includes Senate President Ahmed Lawan, Speaker of House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila, and high-ranking officials of the next administration to also promptly publish their assets to date. According to SERAP, the Code of Conduct for Public Officers contained in the 1999 Nigerian Constitution, all public officers are to declare their assets immediately after taking office at the end of every 4 years and at the end of their term in office. In the open letter signed by SERAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, the organization said publishing their asset declaration form and encouraging other public officials and officials of the next administration to do so would enable Nigerians to scrutinize the assets and worth of public officials before taking office and at the end of their term in office. For news outside Nigeria, power struggle between Sudan's army and a notorious paramilitary force has rocked the country, with more than 50 civilians reported dead. Residents dodged gunfire in the capital Khartoum as rival forces battled over the presidential palace, state TV, and army headquarters. A doctors' organization said 25 people, including 17 civilians, have died in the city. The clashes erupted after tensions over a proposed transition to civilian rule. Both the army and its opponents, the Rapid Support Forces, claimed they had control of the airport and other key sites in Khartoum, where fighting continued overnight. Heavy artillery was heard in Omdurman, which adorns Khartoum, and nearby Bari in the early hours of today. Eyewitnesses also reported gunfire in the Red Sea of Port Sudan. In Asia, Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has vowed to boost security as ministers from overseas visit the country after an apparent smoke bomb was thrown at him. He was evacuated unharmed yesterday from a public event, with witnesses describing a person throwing an object followed by smoke and a loud bang. Japan hosts ministers from the world's 7 richest nations today. Mr. Kishida said the country must maximize its efforts on security. Police said a 24-year-old suspect detained at the scene had been carrying a knife and a possible second explosive device. A former Indian politician convicted of kidnapping has been shot dead live on television along with his brother. Atiq Ahmed, who was under police escort, was talking to reporters when a gun was pulled close to his head in Prayagraj. After the shots were fired, 3 men who had been posing as journalists quickly surrendered and were taken into custody. Ahmed's teenage son was shot dead by police days earlier. Dozens of cases, including kidnapping, murder and extortion, were registered against Atiq Ahmed over the past 2 decades. A local court sentenced him and 2 others to life in jail in March this year in a kidnapping case. Elsewhere, 16 people are dead and 9 others injured after a fire at a residential building in Dubai. The blaze happened in the Al Ras area, one of the oldest parts of Dubai, which is home to many migrant workers and traders. According to local media reports, the fire broke out of the 4th floor of the 5-story building. Dubai Civil Defense said it was caused by a lack of compliance with building security and safety requirements. It said an investigation into the deadly blaze was underway. No one has yet been arrested as part of the investigation. Now in business, Nigeria's inflation rate rose to 22.04% in March 2023 compared to February 2023 headline inflation rate, which was 21.91%. According to the National Bureau of Statistics Consumer Price Index report released today, the March 2023 inflation rate showed an increase of 0.13 percentage points when compared to February 2023 headline inflation rate. The Bureau acknowledged the increase in the prices of food and non-alcoholic beverages, housing, water, electricity, gas and other fuel, clothing and footwear, and transport. The NBS said the increase in prices of the above contributed to the rise of the country's inflationary figure. Welcome to sports. Head coach Issa Laden Boso has invited 39 players to the camp of Nigeria's Under-20 boys ahead of final preparations for this year's FIFA Under-20 World Cup finals taking place in Argentina. World Football governing body FIFA earlier withdrew the hosting rights from Indonesia and handed it over to Argentina with assurances that the period scheduled for the championship 20th May to 11th June would remain unchanged. The Flying Eagles, who finished 3rd at the Africa Under-20 Cup of Nations in Egypt last month, are one of the 4 teams that will fly Africa's flag at the finals, with the others being Senegal, the Gambia and Tunisia. All the invited players have been told to report at the camp in Abuja today, while training sessions will commence tomorrow. In England, Pep Guardiola branded Manchester City's clash with Arsenal in a little over a week as a final in the tense fight for this season's Premier League crown. Erling Haaland equaled Mohamed Salah's 38-game season goal-scoring record by netting twice during the victory over Leicester City, taking his total to 32 with 8 games left. The biggest of those is when Arsenal arrive at the Etihad Stadium next week Wednesday, a night that could have serious implications on where the title ends up. Kylian Mbappe became Paris Saint-Germain's all-time leading goal scorer in Ligue 1 as the beat 10-man lead to move 5 points clear at the top of the table. Mbappe, who netted his 139th goal in his 169th league match, surpassed Edison Cavani's tally. In a crucial match between the league's top 2, Lens midfielder Salis Abdul Samad was sent off after 19 minutes. Lionel Messi and Vitinha also scored for PSG before Lens scored a penalty. Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. There is controversy in Adamawa State. Escalation of results continue in several states of the Federation following yesterday's supplementary elections. No fewer than 29 people have been killed in a fresh attack by bandits on Ruji village in Zango Kataf local government area of Kaduna State. On the foreign scene, a power struggle between Sudan's army and a notorious paramilitary force has rocked the country with more than 50 civilians reported dead. Remember to follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. I am Evelyn Ohiole. Have for yourself a beautiful Sunday.